in this stub, someone killed your entire family. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that was me. Anyway, all right.
And you and your entire family, and you. Yes,
Yep.
I know.
Yep, that's...
That's right.
Sounds like things are going well then. Perfect, exactly as I hoped.
Yeah.
Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here talking about The Peripheral. Season 1, episodes 1 through 4.
Yes.
So essentially the first half of Season 1. A number of commenters requested we talk about The Peripheral, and we aim to please Paul. So that's what we're doing. Paul, I believe you have watched the entire 8 episodes of Season 1.
I have. Okay. I've seen every episode of it so far. I've not read the book that it was based on, but I have read or watched the series.
Okay. I've only watched episodes 1 through 4. Because I feel like, whatever. Being me, it would be easy to forget whether I'm talking about a character from episode 4 or episode 6. So I'm like, all right, never mind. A little background to the show. It's based on a novel by William Gibson. I have not read The Peripheral either.
Okay.
But I did read Gibson's Neuromancer back in the 80s. Neuromancer gets the credit for being one of the kind of the premier examples of cyberpunk. I don't remember a whole lot about it, except that it used the term The Matrix for the virtual reality world that the hero was interacting with. But anyway,
I see. Wachowski's going to give him a call.
That's right. Now, considering the Neuromancer was written in the 80s, it's interesting that The Peripheral was written in 2014. So Gibson's sci-fi credentials, span a few decades.
They do indeed.
Peripheral is high-concept sci-fi, very complex story with a lot of moving parts. I suspect there are more moving parts than even I'm aware of at this moment. 4 episodes in. But here's my attempt to briefly explain the setting. I'm not going to go through the plot, but just the settings.
Settings.
Right, of The Peripheral. So, story takes place essentially in 2 times and places. It's North Carolina in the near future, 2032, and London in 2099. Between those 2 time frames, an apocalyptic event known as the jackpot has occurred. We learn about that at the end of episode 4. So it's a confluence of environmental, medical, societal catastrophes, pretty much wipes out the population. In 2099, folks have figured out how to send their consciousnesses back and forth through time as data. In 2032, the people being corresponded with basically think they're playing a virtual reality video game, but they're actually interacting with people in the future. And in some cases, people from the past, like our hero, Flynn, have their minds temporarily placed into a robot, a peripheral, if you will, in the future. So, Flynn, sitting in a trailer in 2032 North Carolina, is experiencing 2099 London in a robot designed in her likeness. Anyway, but that's enough for me for now. Paul,
yes.
Given that, what did you think of the first half of season 1?
I liked it. I was very intrigued, and it's very clear that people who were involved with Westworld were involved with this.
Right, they were producers. Yeah.
Because it has a number of similar feels to it. The fact that it's based on a work, though, that had a beginning and middle and end makes me feel better about that. I like the setting. I like the characters. I think they do a good job of letting those out. That scene from, I think it was the 3rd episode, where you saw the extent to which the town Scrooge killed off all the undesirables. It's like, wow, if that preacher from Footloose had seen that, maybe he would have felt like, I should let this guy be in charge of it.
Speaking of which, that's the character, that actor was from Westworld.
Yes, of course. Yeah, he played the old prospector guy, or whatever he was.
The father, yeah.
Yeah, Lewis Hertham. yeah, I like it. It's a good, they have dramatic moments that really capture things like that moment when Pickett killed all those bikers.
Did none of them have a cell phone? Did none? I guess not. I don't know. It's 2015. I'm like, hey, I'm trapped in a car. Come get me. I'm at mile marker 15. No, it was pretty gruesome. And then the fact that he brought his nephew into it and like forced him to be part of it.
Yeah,
is pretty terrible. You're like, oh, that's a villain. All right, very good. Note to self.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think, like, for instance, most of the dialogue, especially early on, like, most of the dialogue feels pretty natural. And again, like you, I like the characters. I like the relationship between Burton and Flynn.
Yes. Yeah, I think they did a real good job of convincing me that they're brother and sister and really care about each other.
Yeah, agreed. There's some moments where I'm reminded that this isn't Andor level writing. I think there's a couple of scenes that don't quite make it for me. One in particular was the scene where Wilf and Flynn first kiss. They do it as a decoy, right? They're out in public, and then the cop is following you.
Yes.
Like, it just the robot constable part was just like, he's awfully patient and forgiving, considering it's like an AI robot who's like trying to essentially authenticate yourself. And then, wait, let me give you this overly long BS love story that sounds made up, and because it is, and then let me have this quiet emotional moment ending with a kiss while you stand there patiently and then agree. I don't know, it was just weird how, I don't know.
To me, I saw it as an example of, having watched it twice, of like, okay, here's how you have to, here's the thing you have to do. Sort of like how Burton, busted Flynn for like, okay, why are you behaving in that weird way? In a computer program, okay, you can't, in real life, you shouldn't be doing things just to get points from a computer system. So I saw it as a similar thing, where it's like, okay, here's how you have to behave to sort of get around them.
In other words, like,
give
make
them a
the
story
robot
that they'll find
uncomfortable.
plausible. Yeah. So it's like, oh, here's this drama playing out that a robot, it'll be less understanding of, it's sort of like the limits of AI now, where it's like, oh, yeah, I can create this image of something and give it like 6 fingers or whatever. It's like it's gonna fall down, and so
I just assumed that if it was like a Law and Order style robot, that it would be like, shut up, I'm taking you in.
Except that you're talking to somebody except that you're talking to people with means, right? So he was mentioning people who have, okay, you're associated with these people, so I know who you are. So people have means, don't want to be bothered, so you have to behave in a different way. You can't just treat them like they're criminals.
You feel like there's because there was some kind of social construct going on within the Law and Order robots AI, that's what was tricking it. Okay. Yeah. I just assumed it was like, I do Law and Order things. I have a job to do. You talking is just a way of you trying to get out of me doing my job.
Because even in your characterization of it, it wasn't that character. He's like, he's very polite and everything, It's like, if it was somebody,
exterminate.
Yeah,
he looked like exterminate, but you're right.
What's all this then? He's not like.
Hello. We learn that there are 3 factions vying for power in 2099. So one of them is these cop robots or whatever, the Met. That's kind of like the law enforcement arm, I think, of the government or something. There's the Research Institute, which is just like a giant, sinister corporation. The face of that at the moment seems to be this Charisse character. And then we have the Klept, which is the mafia, and they have a bunch of families. One of those families is represented by this Lev Zuboff, who employs Wilf. Now, also, another scene that kind of didn't hit with me, actually, was where they were describing that. When they were like using little pieces of toast, I was like,
oh yeah,
I think it could have found a clever way to pull that off. But it stuck with me. I remembered it. So okay. As
with lasagna, tool, that would have been far more clever.
Yeah. So those are the 3 organizations vying for power, and I think that's we start seeing how those different factions are all at odds with each other, but also have to coexist. And then within that, there seems to be like the anarchy element, which is represented by Alita. So Alita and Wilf are brother and sister because they grew up together, essentially. She saved him, and then they were adopted together, and they went through a lot of hardships and terrible times together. Now she has kind of broken off on her own.
Yes.
And is trying to take down the Research Institute, maybe? I don't know. There's probably more to... You probably know more about it than I do, being 8 episodes in instead of 4. But it sounds like right now the Research Institute, she was working within it, but she was trying to take it down. Cool. Yeah, so the Research Institute seems the most intent on getting Alita.
Yeah, Cerise seems to be primarily concerned with killing them. Continually. Yeah, and you mentioned at the top, which I don't think I think should be clarified there in terms of back and forth. People from the future can only sort of make calls and give money to people. Oh, and I guess the information about technology, but we don't see any consciousnesses from the future going into the past.
Wilf comes into Flynn's game, for instance.
He's
not actually. It's just not. It's not.
Yeah, but they don't have They don't have a technology that allows him. It's more like a phone call that he goes into. So I mean, I guess in a limited way, his consciousness did go in the past, but it's more like a phone call that he just stepped into.
Good point taken. But in other words, he can talk to Flynn and make his thoughts known to her in the past. Yeah, okay. I got you. He's not inhabiting somebody, but he's able to make his feelings known. Okay.
Yeah. He enters into the simulation that she has running. Yeah.
Which we should then point out something that came up right here at the end of episode 4, and it came up once or twice just in reference before that. And you and I mentioned it a little bit before we started recording here, but the idea that, hey, when these people go back in time and they talk to, or they give people a bunch of money, or they hand out a drug that cures stuff, they create a, quote, stub.
Yes.
And so what that seems like to me are these, almost like the TVA, like the Loki season 1, where it's like you've got this main timeline where bad things happened, the jackpot happened, and then London is the way it is. And then when you go back before the jackpot and you introduce different things, you get these offshoots, these offshoot realities that aren't the main timeline reality. And so folks like the Klept, Lev brings it up as like, oh yeah, the mafia folks, we just use these stubs as like ways to test things. Like drugs or something. Hey, it just kill everybody off. He, though, has this, again, let me make sure everyone knows I'm a villain. It's like,
yes.
Whenever we create a stub, I make sure I hire people to go and kill my entire family because I want to be the only Lev around. So anyway, but no, otherwise it's all, I'm fine. What, I have a sandwich, eat my toast.
It's it's so adorable that you're concerned for me, even in these other places. But no, I'm concerned for me, and that's enough.
That is a fun scene because it's Wilf is telling him, "Oh my God, I heard this terrible news." It turns out, in this stub, someone killed your entire family. Oh yeah, that was me. Anyway, all right.
And you and your entire family, and you. Yes, yep, I know.
Yep. That's
right.
Sounds like things are going well then. Perfect, exactly as I hoped.
Yeah. Hey, I'd be willing to kill you too if you like. I can do that for you.
Yeah, good point.
No, that's all right.
How many others of you would you like me to bump off? So that's obviously a major, plot point to be explored later, because there's a lot more you can do with a stub, quote unquote, than just test medical devices on.
Yes. He said it numerous times. Give him one example, like your imagination is your only limitation,
which sounded like that was talking right to the reader / viewer. Like, for instance, I could imagine you could use stubs to find a way to defeat the jackpot. and you just try different methods.
Well,
Oh,
why
that
would you
didn't
care
work.
though
That
if
didn't
it
work.
can't? Why would you care though if it can't affect you?
Well, maybe that stub
You can't.
becomes the new reality.
No. Well, but so you would transfer yourself into a new reality?
Yeah.
Ah.
That's anyway. That's just that's probably completely wrong, but I'm just saying that's what I was saying.
You have
Like,
to
no.
create. You would create the ability for your brain to transfer in
Yep.
there too.
Create a series of stubs, all with different solutions to the jackpot.
Right.
When one
But-
of them eventually works, you're like, everybody, we're jumping on this, and we'll put, we'll create some peripherals, and we'll live as peripherals in this new wonderland.
Yeah, except I would suggest that the lives of these people don't seem especially harsh at all. I
Yeah.
don't know that
That's a
they
great
have
point.
I don't know if they have any desire at all to help anyone else other than themselves, and they seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah, so there's only it sounds like the percentage of humans actually alive is pretty small.
Oh yeah,
Probably less than 10% of the population. But so you see these empty streets.
yeah,
But boy, yeah, the people we meet are like doing pretty damn well.
yeah.
It reminds me a little bit too. I mean, I know we keep bringing back a show that's awesome that no one saw, but Counterpart,
Yes.
where there was this alternate Earth where essentially a jackpot had happened, a pandemic had happened,
Yes.
and so the
Yes.
streets are basically empty.
Yeah.
It's a different world. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So obviously the stubs create lots of story potential. A scene that sticks in the mind, so to speak, from this first 4 episodes, the enucleated eye scene.
Oh.
I was like, that was a wince-worthy.
Yeah, it was.
I looked
indeed.
away on that one. I was like, oh man, duh.
Yeah.
So the idea of, hey, I'll play this game. Oh wow,
Yes.
it feels real. And here's the little catch: you can't turn it off. Like, oh no, and then So Alita makes Flynn feel the actual pain of having
Yes.
her eye taken out. Like, yikes!
Well, she doesn't get anesthetized.
What does she?
Yeah, she anesthetizes her. It starts off with putting anesthetic on the eye so they
Oh,
can
I thought that was
know.
just I don't know. I thought that was like
making sure that it was
germs, germ free.
Oh, just to
Yeah, swab it. Make sure you don't get infection when we take this out.
because otherwise, I guess she was immobilized, so you just couldn't hear her scream. But I mean, you could go.
Yeah. No, it's true. Anyway, it was a pretty graphic something. Okay.
Oh, but yes, it was.
And the action scenes I think are all well done and they're creative. We see these people, these different combat units fighting each other. We have this idea
Yes.
that in these Burton and his friends are a group of Marines
Yes.
that were connected through these haptics, and so they can actually feel what each other feels to some extent.
Yeah.
They work as a unit together.
And communicate whatever. Yeah, it was an interesting thing about the story where it's like, they would recruit people in towns and then they get the people they recruit to get their friends to come in too. So you already had people who were used to being together, and then so when you would introduce that technology to them, they were,
Right. Use the bonds
efficiently,
they
probably.
already had, the loyalty they already had for each other, and then enhance it. So that's their backstory. Burton is then thinking he's playing Sims while he's actually who knows what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Before they
I
get
don't
the
think
cool headset.
I don't think until Flynn is really damaged does Burton get involved with it. So he had just heard of it. So Flynn was the first person to use it because it arrived and then she put it on. But that's why she had Burton's identity. So
those earlier Sims were literally Sims.
yeah. That first one she did where she did the cow and everything.
From the barn
so.
and everything. Okay.
Yeah. I liked Connor. He was an interesting character there. They're establishing interesting stuff with him.
Right, and a character who is missing limbs and then gets to be in an AI environment where he has limbs. Very, I appreciated that scene of like, oh my god, wait, put me back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too. Certainly the level of sci-fi is high with the two technicians who speak to each other in cryptic language. There,
One character that I feel like is almost maybe a little too plot devicey is Flynn and Burton's mom. So she's dying and she's blind. Yes. And so it's like, hey, if you work for us, we'll cure her. And so she gets cured. But then the only difference, maybe this is more, we see more of this later. But for now, first 4 episodes, it's like the big difference is we see her reading the paper.
Yes.
And I'm like, I get that they're trying to keep her miraculous recovery a secret, because if it gets out, it could present problems. But is she fine being shut up in a room now that she can see and is healthy? I'd be like, I want to go out. I want to drive a car. I want to go to a movie. I want to go to a restaurant.
Well, they did take her to a doctor to see, if that was real. I don't think there's any fear of, having her go around, because you can just say miracle cure or whatever. I think that the show just has space for her to only be as she is in it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, hey, let me put on one of these things and I'll go into the future and start talking to people. It's like, she's your mom.
It just feels like it was like we need a motivation for the character. How do we get the motivation? Oh, the mom is sick. Great, we'll make her well, fine. And then they wipe their hands of it. Like, all right, she's fine. Don't pay attention to the corner anymore. It's fine. She's not a major character, so it's not like, oh man.
No, she's not.
It's just weird.
I think they got their hands.
Huge event. She can now see, and she is not going to die in 4 weeks. That's a huge moment, and we get to see that one. True. Like Flynn is happy about it, obviously, in this one scene. But then I'm like, I don't know. It feels like the family is back together in some ways in that moment, right? Like they've just been taking care of her, but now she's an actual functional member of the family again. It feels like that's the way you could go with it. I get it. They already got a lot of characters.
Yeah, and 2 different settings.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more important to see the other brands of brothers, like Connor, for instance. If you gave her much more.
Yeah,
attention. You did the less for the other people. Yeah, and they're trying to make too, the pickets and all that. Have it being something, and they make actually what is it? Dee Dee, who is the fiance of the ex-boyfriend of Flynn, who, it's like they're making her a character. The nurse that, oh, okay, we got to be careful. You don't want him to tell the cop about what's going on. It's like, they got a lot going on in this show.
They do have a lot going on.
They don't need to have mom go to bingo night or something. So.
Damn it! I wanted to see the bingo night scene. Fine, you tell me episode 5 isn't Mom goes to bingo night? Fine.
No, definitely not. Now it's as good a time as any since we're this far in it.
All right.
Who are you going to match, sir?
Oh, crap. Before we say that, we should say there is a possibility of a season 2 of this, but I don't think it's been lit yet.
I think you're right, but
Yeah.
Oh,
in other words, season 1 isn't the whole book. The whole book
I've seen season 1, and it's definitely not over. Definitely not.
All right. Gotcha. So that said, the major character is going to be... I would say, surely, one of Burton's cadre of ex-Marines has got to get bumped off. I mean, that's...
Okay.
I mean, they can't just be like, hey... We're untouchable. They even use they threaten Pickett with hey, watch this. When I point at your glass, I've got a sniper that can shoot your glass.
Yes,
but I'm sure you're fine with that. Anyway, we'll see you later. And there's no way you could possibly know who that was, except the fact
it's
that
it's not just I'll see you later. It's like, oh, don't worry, we'll pay you for your, to not be happy. So we'll give you that nice carrot.
Yeah, yes. But also, we threaten the shit out of you, and you know exactly who we are. So I'm like, okay, somebody's gonna have to pay there. So okay. I'll go with
one of them.
Okay. One of them. I I don't know. Not Connor. I think Connor survives, but one of the other buddies with the facial hair gets whacked. I don't think he goes in season 1. That scene where the deputy finds the invisible car.
Yes.
And he's spending so long, like, standing over it. As you would. You'd be like, what? An invisible car?
Yeah. That's right,
like,
yeah.
Oh, man. Some owner of this car is coming back. Is going to just bump him off. Oh, it's coming. No. But, no, he survived that scene. And he does have a part to play because he's the former boyfriend.
He's the only person who's really a law person in the whole.
But I would say, in terms of the story in general, he probably buys it. I feel like he probably survives season 1, but he'd be on my list.
I see.
Because Charisse is killing off so many people. I'm like, slow down. These bees will all attack you. I'm glad you walked into this giant hive. Oh, man. There was that moment where it felt again like basically they need to have Pickett know what's happening. And so they're like, how do we figure out how to make Pickett know what's happening? I know. We'll have Flynn tell her best friend who's married to his nephew. And that scene where she's telling and then she's talking to Burton. And Burton speaks for me, I'll say, because he's like, what are you, an idiot?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, yes. And her explanation doesn't help. She's like, you've got all these friends you could talk to.
Yes.
I can't. Yeah, he can talk to them because they've already killed a bunch of guys and buried them. They have a vested interest in keeping the secret. Your friend who's married, come on now. I mean, she has no stake in keeping the secret. It just seemed like a bad idea.
She is just as good friends with Connor. You know, she could talk to Connor or Leon. You know, talk to one of those guys. There you go. They don't know anything.
Hell,
although her brother does say, like, only told him a certain amount actually.
Right.
So Leon, who gets wins the lottery, only knows so much. And I think he's fine with that.
Right. Good point. He's like, need to know. Chain of command. But anyway, it was just like that. That was just. It felt like a laughably bad idea for her to tell Billie Jean everything. And like, oh, come on now. Come on. Would you do that? Would you do that really? I mean, they're trying to push this thing of like, I'm lonely and I have these this distress and these terrible problems and I need to get them out with some, but the ramifications, not just for her, but hell, for her friend. I mean, Billie Jean could be in major peril now that you've told her that information. So,
but if you think about it, though, the point that she tells her, though, is before she decides to go back. So she had that period of time where she was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And before Wilf sought her out to say, okay, your family's in danger, she had already told her friend
I got you.
all that incriminating. So
you feel like
it's sort of like
it's
impossible for her to know the extent to what that effect that would have for everything. Mm-hmm. She's just been told that it was from the future and all that, and I'm sorry, but people tell things like that all the time. So she's not used to thinking of, and she's not like it's not like her brother Burton, who's always thinking about, is this situation going to kill me?
Right. Yeah.
Which is what he tries to tell her actually too, and that she's playing these Sims and she's good at playing the Sims because she's willing to do shit that you shouldn't do in real life.
Yeah, which is why I thought maybe the story might be heading in the direction of use the stubs as a way to test how to defeat the jackpot, because she would use that game theory she talked about. I'm just trying to fail as many ways as we can and then figure out, that's where it works, and then just go with that. That's kind of I was thinking they might extrapolate.
Right, I hear you, yeah. But then, I think they need to establish a reason for them to leave that world.
Gotcha.
Which, if things are still getting worse, I guess that could be the reason.
So the thing that we talked about briefly before we started recording as well, which you've assured me that there's good reason for using people from the past in robots in the future, because part of what's happening so far in episodes 1 through 4 is I'm like, if you've got these fully functional robotic units that look freaking human and can respond to all kinds of commands, why do you need to like hook it up to somebody from 2032? But there's the reason, so I'm good with that. We do, one of the bigger mysteries, I suppose, is that we see Flynn finds that Alita has like a little diorama of her farm and little miniatures of her brother and his group, and she's so that suggests a more intimate connection to, or maybe Flynn's family, or maybe Alita is somehow, I don't know, maybe Alita's past somehow intersects with Flynn's family in some way. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like there's something there. That, in other words, that Flynn is very special. She's not just any person from the past. It's like, that person from the past. Just throwing that out there. Throwing out little
I hear you.
plot
That's interesting theory.
So those are our thoughts on episodes 1 through 4. We'll be back talking about 5 through 8. And if you've got some thoughts on this show, I think it's a very watchable show. It's a fun sci-fi show, and as I say, very high concept and just goes to places you wouldn't expect. And so that's awesome. And good recommendation from me on that. And anyway, we'll be back talking about the second half of the season next time. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
And we'll see everybody then. Bye.
Bye.